Good day, everyone. This is a presentation to satisfy the requirements of Curriculum and Methods Assessment 1. In this presentation, we will be looking at what is involved in education in the Australian context, the teaching and learning across all disciplines. The history and present state of Australian curriculum is examined briefly, in-depth analysis of the principle of teaching and learning and its pedagogical agency. It will be followed by the link between these principles and its application across the discipline. Before Australian curriculum exists, each state or territory has its own curricula. Needless to say, there were many differences and focus on what each curriculum should achieve. The roadblocks towards this common goal was mainly political and educational in nature, with each having a number of different stakeholders with their own agendas. However, in the last 25 years or so, there has been a strong push and advancement towards uniformity and a common curriculum. There were numerous factors that were considered, discussed, and arguments put forward to arrive at the agreed Australian curriculum. In this presentation, the focus is on why teachers need to understand the design principles, why they were chosen, and more importantly, to effectively deliver the curriculum to bring about the desired outcome. The approach towards the design of the curriculum was content-based, experience-based, and outcome-based. In content-based, concentration was on the discipline areas and subjects that are taught. There may be less emphasis on types of learning that integrates knowledge and skills across all subjects, and also it may not take into account the long-term goals of curriculum. In experience-based, the learner's experience at the forefront of the curriculum design. What they will experience as they go through the education process guide this line of thinking. For outcome-based education, the design begins with the end in mind. What is a long term of the curriculum is central towards this approach. Teachers will need to consider the short, medium, and long-term goals of the curriculum in their lesson, unit, and subject plan. It is interesting to note that different approach will bear different result, but in outcome-based education, features of content and experience-based are also evident. Below are points to note with regards to the Australian curriculum. More information can be obtained from ACARA website. It is a basic entitlement of every young Australian to receive knowledge, understanding, and skills so that they can be engaged in endeavors that provide a foundation for successful and lifelong learning and participation in the Australian community. These 7 capabilities must be infused in all disciplines in varying degrees, not as an add-on feature, but evident throughout the content. Curriculum documents make explicit how the general capabilities can be addressed in each learning area. These are the 8 learning areas, which are English, mathematics, science, human and social sciences, the arts, health and physical education, and technology. The 3 cross-curriculum priorities are Asia and Australia's engagement in Asia, the Aborigines and Torres Strait indigenous histories and cultures, as well as sustainability. There are also expectations to be met according to prescribed achievement standards. As the students come from many different racial and cultural backgrounds, the curriculum also recognizes the students' wide and varying needs and interests, be it academic or in other areas. A key requirement in the curriculum also noted the way young people learn today and its constantly changing trend due to rapid development in technology, social media, new pedagogies, and multi-literacies, to name a few. Relationship between curriculum pedagogy, planning, and teaching. The diagram shows the interdependence between the various elements involved. Teachers need to understand this correlation in order to be effective in their profession. Under the broad umbrella of curriculum planning, that is what to teach, is embed the pedagogy, the science, the art, and craft of teaching. To achieve this, thorough planning needs to be incorporated to achieve effective teaching. Pedagogy, the agency that connects teaching with learning. The diagram shows various forms of pedagogies. However, in this presentation, the focus will be on productive pedagogies and its role towards achieving the desired curriculum. There are four components to productive pedagogies, namely intellectual quality, connectedness, working with and valuing differences, and supportive classroom environment. Intellectual quality is achieved through developing higher order thinking skills in students. By going deeper in depth, deep knowledge, students develop a more concrete understanding in the subject area. Conversation becomes more substantive, and knowledge are seen as problematic in the sense that knowledge is there, not to be absorbed blindly, but rather to be respected, questioned, and challenged. Student lives and schooling becomes relevant and a more meaningful experience when there is connected with the curriculum. Through knowledge integration, connection can be made through different subject areas. Can knowledge in one discipline be related to or applied in another discipline? Can this knowledge solve real world problems? When teachers know the background knowledge of their students, like knowing their lives in and out of school, knowing how they learn as every individual is different, can they show their understanding in different ways? Knowing the cultural background and sensitivities and how different cultures sees learning as part of their culture process, they can then improve their effectiveness as a teacher. Intellectual quality and connectedness is facilitated by having a supportive classroom environment. Students must feel that they can ask any questions without teacher being judgmental. Does the teacher have high expectation of every student in the classroom, regardless of their ethnicity, language, and cultural diversity? Are there plans or assistance in place for students who do not meet the minimum requirement? Have they been provided with how the outcome of their work meets the necessary achievement level? How do I help those who are not motivated, those with language difficulties, and those with behavioral issues? Recognition of different cultural knowledge. Are non-dominant cultures valued? Next to consider is inclusivity. Does the teacher have high expectation of every student in the classroom, regardless of their ethnicity, language, and cultural diversity or physical disability? In terms of narrative, what is the teaching style of the teacher? Is it just chalk and talk, direct instruction, or are other teaching strategies being employed? In terms of group identity, Does the teaching build a sense of community and identity within the class, within the school? For active citizenship, are attempts made to encourage active citizenship within the classroom? Relationship between curriculum, pedagogy, planning, and teaching. Again, it must be remembered that effective teachers employ a range of pedagogies. The focus here, as mentioned before, was on productive pedagogy. Coming back to this slide from previously, we now take a look at how the planning can be done once the pedagogy has been identified. Planning, teaching, and assessment. Bloom suggested that it has been used widely by curriculum designers and teachers to group outcomes in three domains, namely cognitive, or the thinking or mental processes, the psychomotor, or the control of body movement, and the affective, or the feelings, attitudes, and values domain. We will concentrate here on the cognitive or knowledge processes. Anderson and Crowell revised Bloom's work to include different types of knowledge. The different learning outcomes can be arranged in a hierarchical order as shown in the diagram with increasing levels of skills as we go up the pyramid. The pyramid starts with remember or recall of facts and followed by understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. A learning taxonomy grid based on Anderson and Crowell. Anderson and Crowell recognize that just as there are different cognitive processes, there are different types of knowledge. They are factual, conceptual, procedural, and metacognitive. They represent this correlation in the grid as shown, instead of in a list. This is a very powerful tool to use for planning, teaching, and assessing purposes. The learning outcome can be placed at the intersection of the cognitive process and the type of knowledge that students need to know. Revised taxonomy and focal point of outcome-based education. The use of the grid in previous slide can be applied to the outcome of alignment, teaching strategies, and assessment. As an example, for teaching strategies, if what is required is a recall of definition or remembering facts, then we can adopt the direct instruction strategy. As we move up the skill level required and more advanced knowledge, we can adopt other strategies like discussion, small group work, cooperative learning, problem solving, inquiry, case study, role play, and writing. There are, however, some difficulties with regards to this grid that can be used. The difficulties in this planning is filling the grid in the correct spaces. It may not be easily seen which grid is in the learning outcome, teaching strategy, or assessment should be in, and there may be an overlapping or it can be in two or more grid. Questions like, is the outcome appropriate? Does the chosen strategy achieve the outcome? Is the assessment procedure a reliable tool? The trick here is to use the grid as a tool, a guide to align outcome, teaching strategy, and assessment. It should also be used as an iterative process. Limitations. The limitation to the use of this process is that of the quality of learning. It cannot differentiate between good answers and poor answers. A suggestion to this is to use a standard reference assessment, just like what is being used to assess this presentation. The quality of learning is given by a no pass, pass, credit, distinction, or high distinction in terms of its standards. This, of course, is accompanied by the descriptors for each grade level. A hybrid system of this standard reference assessment and the revised taxonomy grid could also be explored. Another approach which can be used but is not dealt with here is a solo taxonomy. In conclusion, the journey for a pre-service teacher to a practicing one involves constantly revisiting the curriculum, pedagogy, planning, teaching, our own and our students' learning and assessment as changes to the profession are constantly evolving. Curriculum may change in response to economic requirements. Our student style of learning may change due to technological advancement and changes in our discipline areas, as well as new discipline which is non-existent today. Thank you.